Hi, welcome back to the Leadership Help Desk, where our topic for today is how to choose a partner or an employee for you small business people uh, using the shopping cart theory. Some people have already heard of this. I'm a little late to the game here, but if you haven't heard of the shopping cart theory, it's really something to think about. The definition that I got was a person's moral character can be determined by whether they choose to return the shopping cart or not. If you don't return the shopping cart, you're basically a bad person. If you do return the shopping cart to its little stall rack or back to the store, that makes you a good person. So, if you're a returner, you're a Puritan, they are a Puritan, the people are a Puritan that you can trust. So if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend and you go to the store and you get back to your car with the cart and you say, hey, can you take care of the cart? And if they just push it into the parking lot, probably hitting somebody's car, or maybe even jacking it up and putting it on the curb, that might be a clue to you that they're not a Puritan. If they do, that might be a person you want to build a relationship with, whether it be a partner or an employee. If they never return the cart, they're probably jerks. They're self-centered. So we can kind of take this simple concept and see into a person and their self-identity, their concern for others, their view of the world. Now, sometimes there'll be excuses, or maybe they're not in the mood, maybe the weather is bad and whatnot. That's a judgment call. Now, it doesn't just have to be a shopping cart. It could be how they clean a hotel room before they leave. Do they leave a mess, all the garbage, or do they straighten up, even kind of make up the bed, put the garbage in the garbage bin, and leave the hotel in a respectable way? What about at a restaurant? You might notice if they're all messy and they leave their dishes all over the place with crumbs and they don't try to at least make it easy for the bus boy or bus girl, that might be a sign that this is not a person you want to build a relationship with, especially long term. Uh, what about, do they litter while nobody's looking? Now, I wish I'd had this concept in my head when I was 18 and I was dating that girl who, when nobody was looking, would just clean out the car on the country road. That's a sign that she's not going to be there for me. She's only concerned about herself. She has no concern for others, beauty, and things like that. Also, I dated a girl that was fond of telling cruel jokes. That should have been a sign. I could have married both of these people, and I would have gotten a bad apple. And it's just, if we just pay attention to these small things. Now, my wife was getting her first job, and she went to the interview, and she walked into I guess, the secretary, and went into the owner's office, who had a chair across the desk, and she sat down, and he said, oh, thank you for coming, I'll be right back. And she noticed that there was a spilled glass of water on the desk, and there was a rag right next to it. What do you do? Would you hire the person who just stared at the glass with the water on the desk with a rag right there and they did nothing? Or would you hire the person who said, wow, we have a mess, let me clean it up? Now, there's no, you don't get cookies for cleaning up the mess. You don't get cookies for leaving the hotel nice, leaving your table nice. So there's these are situations where there's no real reward and there's no real punishment. So we have to keep that in mind. So, of course, my wife said, well, there's a rag, and this is a resort. She put the glass back up and wiped down the water, and she got the job. Now, it's weird to think about that, but at the same time, we both believe it was a setup. It was a test. It was actually the shopping cart theory. Now, years ago, I read about Southwest and their hiring practices. And it only occurred to me after reading about the shopping cart theory that Southwest, probably 20 years ago, and they probably still do, it's a great test of a person's, concern about others. They would set up interviews. And these interviews might have group activities, little presentations, skits, simulations, and Southwest Air would begin watching the person come into the parking lot. They knew who was they said, come to this parking lot. They knew who was coming in. And if the person came in and they're driving and, maybe a car is trying to get the parking spot and they curse or they go, that was mine, strike one. They were watching people in the parking lot and their attitudes towards others, their concern for others, their self-respect, respect for others, their worldview in the parking lot, and they took notes. And then they would have them come in and they would give us, an orientation of some sort and give some skits. And if a group was presenting and the person was just looking at their notes, that shows more concern for them, although that's a little tricky, and they were not paying attention to the presentation. Strike two. Now, I see it. I see people giving presentations in class, and I say, co-workers, co-students, you need to pay attention to the presentation. And after about 4 minutes of the presentation, everybody's on their phone. And I'm thinking to myself, would I write a reference letter for these people? Can you imagine the lack of concern for others, the self-centeredness of having one of your friends presenting in front of a class? They're nervous, and everybody in the class is doing this. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And it's getting worse in today's times because everybody's staring at their freaking phone. They don't have concern for others. Another one, and this was very interesting with Southwest, and the example was they were interviewing a pilot, and the pilot had come from the military, decorated. I mean, just years of experience, zero safety problems, super professional, and not only does Southwest want somebody who has a concern for others, who has conscientiousness, who has moral character, they also thrive on humor and having fun. If you don't know much about Southwest Air, you should go look it up. It's fascinating what Herb Kelleher did with the company that he founded. It was at Love Field. The stock ticker is LUV. They don't have a human resource department, they have a people department. And they're interviewing a very decorated, perfect pilot. And the interviewer tells him a joke that anybody would giggle at. And the pilot stood there sat there stone cold and didn't move a bit, didn't giggle, didn't grin, nothing. He was humorless. He's got competence. He probably doesn't even need the job. He just wants the job to do something, and sits there cold. He didn't get the job. He doesn't fit the culture. So, these are some little tests that you can do, and that will help you choose a partner, a spouse, an employee, a team member, a company, small business partner. What is their real, the truth comes out. The true colors come out in something as simple as the shopping cart theory. I'm thinking of another example of a country artist who would hire a band. And if one of his band members who was married bragged about cheating on their wife, they were fired. Why? Shopping cart theory. If you'll screw around on your wife, you'll screw around on anybody. It just makes sense. And it's so simple. So simple. Except when you're young, you're not you might giggle. You might go, oh, this doesn't really matter. But it really matters. Simple things. No punishment, no reward. Situations shows a person's moral character. Do they litter when nobody's looking? Do they put up their shopping cart just for the sake of doing the right thing? It tells you a lot about the person. I hope you like this. If you did, subscribe.